This is Autoline Daily, the show dedicated to enthusiasts of the global automotive industry. Volkswagen workers are planning another round of walkouts in Germany next week. The union IG Metall said workers will go on strike for 4 hours on Monday at 9 plants across the country. The workers are protesting the automaker's plan to slash jobs and wages. The two sides are trying to negotiate a deal and will resume talks on Monday, but the union is holding the strike as a warning to management. Earlier this week, 100,000 workers walked off the job for 2 hours at 9 plants in Germany. So next week's walkout will be twice as long and disrupt production even more. Tesla is making a push to beat last year's sales of 1.8 million vehicles. But in the first 3 quarters of the year, Tesla's global sales are down 2.3%. So to meet the goal, the company is getting more aggressive with leasing in the U.S. It's offering 3 months of free charging, a free trial of full self-driving, and it's now allowing lease buyouts for all its vehicles. According to S&P Global Mobility, Tesla's lease penetration was 8% in January of 2023. It rose to 20% last December and hit a peak of 31% in April of this year before falling to 15% in September, which is the most recent month data that's available. Some automakers have an EV lease penetration as high as 90%, and that's because there aren't any restrictions on the $7,500 tax credit when leasing an EV. Autonomous vehicles are making more progress. Uber launched its first Robotaxi service outside of the U.S. in Abu Dhabi, along with Chinese AV company WeRide. The service, which will use WeRide's vehicles, will cover tourist areas around the city and will initially have a safety driver on board, but it will become fully driverless sometime next year. And Waymo is expanding its Robotaxi service to Miami. It will first test autonomous Jaguar I-Paces in the city early next year before launching the ride-hailing service to the public in 2026. Waymo also announced that it partnered with Move, a fleet management service that will maintain its vehicles. Waymo says it's now providing more than 150,000 driverless trips a week in Phoenix, Los Angeles, San Francisco, and Austin. Stellantis is investing in another company that makes lithium-sulfur batteries, which are lighter, cheaper, and less affected by temperature as regular lithium-ion batteries. In 2023, it invested in Lyten, a U.S.-based materials company that's using graphene to improve the durability of lithium-sulfur batteries. In May, Stellantis and other automakers got some cells to test, and the CTO of Lyten's battery division told us in October that they could be ready for production as early as 2027. And now Stellantis is investing in Zeta Energy, another U.S.-based company making lithium-sulfur batteries. The two will collaborate on pre-production development as well as future production of Zeta's technology, which can be made in existing battery plants. They'll set up domestic supply chains in Europe and North America, and the batteries are scheduled to go into Stellantis EVs by 2030.
Knowing that a little rain won't slow down your day, that's what really matters. Bridgestone Turanza Quiet Track tires, confident control in wet conditions.
Lotus expected massive sales gains from its electric vehicles, but as we know, EV demand hasn't stayed where automakers thought it would. In 2023, Lotus sold just under 7,000 vehicles worldwide, which was a record for the company, but it set a target of 24,000 sales for this year. It has already topped last year's total with over 7,600 sales through October, but obviously that's well short of its goal. So it cut its target in half to 12,000 units. And to help ensure it hits that new number, Lotus is trying to add more stores. Even with 215 dealers around the world, it has stores in less than half of the European market. But in order to attract new retailers, Lotus has had to drop the agency model that it adopted a couple of years ago. Instead of dealers wholesaling vehicles from an automaker and selling them to customers, the automaker sets the price, handles the transactions, and manages the inventory, while the dealer acts as a go-between and can get a fixed fee for any sale. However, Lotus says this ended up putting too much pressure on the company, so that's why it's going back to the old way of doing things. But we may find ourselves revisiting this story again at some point. Lotus also set a goal of selling 150,000 vehicles in 2028. There's an interesting report from Bloomberg that the European market is a must-win for Chinese EV car companies, especially with them getting closed out of the US market. Even though the Chinese government doesn't want them making deals while it tries to negotiate lower tariffs and is discouraging them from building cars in Europe, automakers are doing it anyway. And they're moving fast because they want that first mover advantage. BYD, for example, is a major sponsor of the European Football Championship. It's headhunting execs from Stellantis, and it's launching pop-up stores to display its cars in highly populated areas. Bloomberg says the Chinese won't take over the European market quickly, but they're not going to retreat. The Wuling Guang MiniEV was the first really popular cheap Chinese EV, and since its introduction in 2020, more than 1.4 million units have been sold. Over the years, it's added convertible versions, as well as ones called Game Boy and Macaron, and it recently introduced the third-gen model with more bubbly styling, which seems to be doing quite well. In November, over 38,000 examples were sold. We had a great Autoline After Hours yesterday with Chris Benjamin, the head of design at Scout. Early in the show, he talked about how he got started in automotive design at the Mercedes-Benz Advanced Studio in California. But he was so burdened by his college debt that he had to take a full-time job at Taco Bell at the same time he was working full-time at Mercedes. Chris also talks a lot about Scout, but the first half of the show is an incredible story of his work ethic and determination. And then, if you're looking for some good reading material over the weekend, let me recommend the Greenbrier White Paper, which we think is an eye-popping report of the dangers the auto industry faces, as well as some of the hard-nosed advice of what the automakers need to do to become more efficient. The report comes out of the Global Leadership Conference that's organized by the SAE Detroit section at the Greenbrier Resort in West Virginia. Even though the conference has been around for 74 years, it's not well known, and this is the first time they've ever published anything about what was said. We've got the link in today's transcript and description box if you'd like to check it out. But that brings us to the end of today's show. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope that you have a great weekend.
Autoline Daily is brought to you by Bridgestone, solutions for your journey. Intrepid Control Systems, over-the-air engineering boost your game. And by Teijin Automotive Technologies, the formula for better mobility.
There's nothing wrong with heavy metal.
Hey, lighten up.
But with world-class composite material, Teijin Automotive Technologies makes vehicles lighter, safer, and more eco-friendly.
Developing today's vehicles. Issues can happen in an instant. When's the best time to solve a problem? The minute you know you have one. Meet Wireless NeoVi Cloud, your secure, off-the-shelf solution empowering real-time collaboration for quick resolution. With Wireless NeoVi Cloud, your team can prevent issues before they can escalate. Driver communication data and remote diagnostics to analyze and resolve your problems using OTA, allowing your executives oversight throughout the process. Wireless NeoVi Cloud, your vehicle update solution in production and on the road. Intrepid Control Systems, driven by your data.
Wards is the industry leader for news, data, and analysis. That's why companies across the globe subscribe to our premium service, maybe even your own. Log in for subscriber access now. Check your company's intranet for details and rely on wardsauto.com to keep you informed.